And welcome back to Stories from the River. This is your host, Charlie Malouf. And we're here in the middle of our Charlie Workmon conversation, my business partner, good friend, and the president and CEO of Riverstone Logistics, hence the hat that I'm wearing for this episode. So if you haven't listened to Charlie's background, episode 1 and getting into episode 2, personal purpose, a purpose for a company, getting into the Broad River story, the 2015 story, episode 3, and then 2016 through COVID, 2020, and kind of a renewed reawakening of going out onto his own. Go back and listen to those now, parts 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that brings us up today. We'll put those links in the show notes.
Welcome to Stories from the River, a show in which we go behind the scenes at Broad River Retail.
So, Charlie, we came through COVID on the last episode, and then, we kind of had to figure out how to get you to where you could go pursue your dream, because you're an owner at Broad River Retail, also an owner at Riverstone Logistics, but we really, it was in everyone's best interest to kind of have you go more into Riverstone. So how did all that kind of play out?
Yeah. So first I needed to crystallize what it was I was after. And I think there was a moment where it was, is it something outside of Riverstone and Broad River? Is it Riverstone? Is it Broad River? But I'm not Elon Musk. I can't have a foot in 2 canoes or 3 canoes. So, pick a path. And so the first part of clarity is I've got to pick a path. The second is obviously this long-term dream of founding, owning, running a 3PL. Well, we had one. It was Riverstone Logistics. It was serving Broad River Retail. But other than a couple of disparate calls, and I believe at that point we had actually started serving another licensee to help them with COVID and just what they were experiencing. We really hadn't done anything else with it. Certainly hadn't prepared it for scale and growth of any sort, or made any substantial investments. And frankly, it wasn't making any money. So we have conversations, you, me, and Manny, and we get to this place where, very clearly, Manny is the right person to be the chief operating officer of that company, already was, and just poised to do great things with it. And I clearly have a call to move on to the 3PL side of the house. So we find our way to a place where we're able to facilitate a transaction where we put Manny in the best position that we could at Broad River from an ownership perspective. Obviously, giving him the opportunity to go source other operators and really take operations at Broad River Retail to the next level. And then I wanted to go do the Riverstone thing, and it became time, and we got there. We made the right moves to kind of facilitate all that. Yeah,
which also allowed you to kind of have more of a vested interest in this company, Riverstone Logistics, which would prove important. So everyone had to kind of take a little bit less to get a little bit more, and kind of do some trades, and I kind of tried to help triangulate that.
Yeah.
And so we got there, and so that was 2021, right?
Yeah, it was early 2021, and it really perfectly aligned us for what would become the next phase. And to your point, interests. Everybody's interests were more aligned with where they were. So great. It also meant that I was betting on myself in a different kind of way, because there was no going back at that point. Broad River Retail was going to go find the executive to run operations. I was here, and my net worth had shifted to this place. So it's not making any money. It's time to figure out how to make that work. I loved that. It's part of what I needed, the opportunity to bet on myself and to go back to this dream and go make it reality. And at this point, you and Manny had really helped me set the stage for betting on myself and for Riverstone growing unfettered. And it was really an exciting moment for me. So here we are, but I'm not ready to just let go of a very powerful mentorship that hadn't been a structured mentorship to that point, had been just me, reporting to you, working with Manny, and working with Jonathan and learning as we're going through the process of building Broad River to kind of be the next version of itself. I needed the mentorship to continue. So I would have come to you and I said, I would like you to mentor me. And so I felt like it was critical that we take a more focused approach to mentorship. And I didn't know what that meant. I needed your help to do that. But it was about being an entrepreneur. It was about having a growth mindset. And really what I had identified in myself as I went through a darker period in the second half of 2020. First off, I need to get out of self-loathing mode. Mm-hmm. I need to switch and become a more growth-minded individual. Mm-hmm. I had always taken pride in being a person who had a lot of grit. Well, I wasn't showing a lot of it then. Mm-hmm. I was helping us get out of the fire and really do incredible things. And Broad River had record-breaking numbers, and so it was awesome. We were leaving it in good hands, but I needed to start thinking like an entrepreneur would. I needed to start hearing from somebody who'd been there before. And really I needed a thought leader who knew me, who knew my blind spots, who was able to point to them and say, you're not looking at this right, or maybe yes, but maybe this, or yes, and have you considered this? And so I called you and said, really want you to mentor me.
Yeah. And I think well, first of all, what an honor to be asked to mentor someone formally. And I really considered it an honor and a privilege, mm-hmm. and was so excited to say yes to it. And and it became my favorite meeting. I don't know if was it once a week, once a month, every 2 weeks?
It was every 2 weeks.
It was every 2 weeks, yeah.
Throughout 2021.
Yeah, it really became my favorite meeting. This wasn't like a one-on-one weekly meeting. This was
definitely
like
mine.
You would always prepare the agenda, and then,
mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to think, well, I've never formally mentored someone before. How do I go about it? I got to learn this thing too. Am I even equipped? I'm trying to still figure it out myself, So, but also I had a vested interest in seeing you succeed and Riverstone succeed.
Yeah.
So I will happily do what I can. I said, well, I had read this book, and we put it on the coffee table here. Let me just grab it for a second.
Yeah.
I'd read this book by Keith Cunningham, The Road Less Stupid.
Yeah.
And we're familiar with book clubs and going through books together. And our good friend Howard Feynman gave me this book back in May of 19,
yeah.
and I devoured it. And I've highly recommended it to others. And I said, I think, Charlie, there's so much practical wisdom here. Like, why don't we just go through this book chapter by chapter, go through it together? So that was part of our mentorship, was going through this book, talking about the business lessons. Shout out to Keith Cunningham.
Thank you, Keith.
And then also the agenda that you would prepare, whether it's people, hiring questions, decisions, growing here, doing this. And if nothing else, just maybe an accountability check-in. And always open with prayer, ended in prayer, and included kind of going through the book, which I loved going through it again, because you kind of forget things. And I highly marked it up, and it's highlighted, marked up. And so anyways, that's kind of what we went through.
So this book, my favorite books, my favorite are never the greatest literary works. They're never the most, maybe the most lauded version of what they are. They're the right thing at the right time. And this book was the perfect choice that you made. In so many ways. I devoured it. I audio first, because it's just me. And then going back and reading it, and then being in it together. And it happened really early in 2021, where we got to the phrase, know the game you're playing. Mm-hmm. And it's that, Keith Cunningham talks a lot about thinking time and making time for thinking time. So I started taking very practical steps to introduce thinking time into my days, and really, I didn't give it an hour at first. It might have been 15 minutes, but it grew to an hour as 2021 would transpire. I would take a lot of his questions. I would ask my own version of those questions, and I would often take questions you asked in mentorship sessions, and I would just jot them down, and then I would jot down my answers. I always used a pencil. I always erased, re-edited, rethought through it, revisited a lot of questions. I never answered the question and didn't come back to it, or at least not often. So really incorporating thinking time, but then getting to a place where I understood what I was doing. And so first, personally, why do I exist? Why am I here? Well, I know why I'm here. I'm told why I'm here. It's evident to me. Am I living like this? No, I'm not. I need to reframe how I see my place in this world, really start making conscious efforts to think of myself less and others more, and let good things happen because I'm open to putting a soul ahead of myself, not just my kids and my wife. That's easy to put them ahead of myself sometimes. Not all the time, I'm also selfish, but really getting into a practice of treating others, loving my neighbor as myself, and really taking it seriously. So personally, how does that integrate with business? Well, I started to see clearly Riverstone was I wanted it to be a platform, a people-centric platform, a client-centric platform, just this orbit, this dance of just people loving each other well, serving our communities well, and constantly improving. No goal for being the biggest. That wasn't the game I was playing. The best, it's too squishy. It doesn't have enough substance to it anyway. It's just be on the journey, enjoy the adventure, improve a little bit every day. So I really started rallying around this love, serve, improve mindset, and really started understanding that with Riverstone, the best way to do that was to really facilitate an opportunity or opportunities for us to recap the company sooner rather than later, and to find a way to get the people who had taken leaps of faith to come join our company and bring them into the management team. Find a way to get them shares so that we're all moving in the same direction, the same way, same purpose. And so know the game we were playing. The game I was playing in 2021 quickly became reading this, building bench strength, which Keith talks a lot about. And then bringing my people into a very collaborative environment where everybody had a stake in what we were doing and how we were growing, and eventually facilitating a transaction whereby we brought on a sponsor to come help us take this thing to a completely different level in a way that's meant to love people.
I think that's the differentiated concept of Riverstone doing this business. That is a tough business. It's a challenging business, but doing it with this, after self-reflection, this love, serve, improve mindset, and taking the time. April Todd was on the podcast previously before you, and she really shared a lot of her self-reflection habits and disciplines. And I shared with her that Charles Duhigg, who wrote The Power of Habit, had stated once in a virtual speech or masterclass, maybe it was in his second book too, Smarter, Better, Faster, which was the number one productivity habit is reflecting, thinking time, thinking about it. And Keith Cunningham talks about it a lot, like taking a challenging question or problem and carving out the same hour every week, thinking about it. So there's so much, you can go so much faster, further, if you know you're going the right direction, the right rate, running the right race, not the game you're in. I mean, I remember some of the early conversations were like, well, early on, like, well, I think we need to change our logo or change our name, or create a purpose statement. I was like, well, do you? Like, is that what the game you're playing right now? I mean, that's going to be a lot of effort. You don't even know how you might change, and just leave yourself some latitude or agility maybe. But if that's what you want to do it. Ultimately it's always going to be your decision to do, but would just maybe ask you kind of challenging questions, like centered and maybe around, well, where are you right now? And how should you be thinking about it for the moment, for the time that you're in right now? And so ultimately, through that reflection, what you're articulating, and people may not know exactly what you mean when you say a sponsor, but really you took on investors.
Investors,
so you diluted your ownership stake, my ownership stake, Manny's ownership stake, but took on investors to also kind of enroll the management team, stabilize the company's financials, because you're going after big contracts with big players, Fortune 50 companies, the Lowe's, the Home Depots, the GE Appliances, the Electroluxes, the Best Buys of the world. And to do that, you need to be well capitalized.
Yes.
And that's going to let you run further, faster. And also to kind of get your family where it needs to be, to take some chips and risk off the table. And so through that reflection, that's how you got there.
Yeah.
And that happened really probably faster than it could have or should have happened because of all the swirling things going on, the tailwind that kind of propelled us during COVID and created this kind of friction of just not being happy with your 3PL or this jockeying for position, or I need to find new providers or a new way to go about
capacity.
it. And capacity. And you offered a creative way, like the rapid response teams, and everyone needed power, and inflation. It kept going up and up and up and up. We saw it a lot more than products did. We saw it in services and labor, especially at the motor carrier mark, especially when you're trying to put, 10 years of demand into a 12-month cycle.
Right.
It all goes up. But anyways, you navigated it well. You canoed the mountains. There's a lot of quotes that you've got here that you've developed. So I'll let you keep riffing on the Riverstone story.
Yeah.
So 2021, you bring on a sponsor, which started on, I think, around May 11th.
Yeah.
And then consummated around mid-October. So it's a 6-month cycle, happened really quickly, early in your journey, faster than you thought it might be, but came through that self-reflection. Mm-hmm. And then what?
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a rapid deal from late 2020 through early 2021, really figuring out the game that we're playing, engaging in conversations, finding the right person. Harold Barron, reached out to me, and he's this great guy, former CEO of Nolan Transportation Group. And we knew at the end of the first conversation that we wanted to do something. I didn't know if it was going to happen or not. Certainly had healthy doubt, but I knew that what I was looking for was strategic money. Mm-hmm. I wanted partnership. Mm-hmm. I wanted somebody who was going to be able to come in and offer something new. So to go further faster, it's not enough to just find capital. It's finding the right capital with the right people who really want to see the company grow the way the company wants to grow. Are they going to be engaged in the game that we're playing?
Yeah.
And I could not have found a better partner than Harold, and certainly the other investors that came on at that time. All were in line with Harold and all just ready to back the Riverstone management team and support us. And so it was amazing that in 2021 we moved that fast, that rapidly through things. But really, as soon as we started making calls, people were giving us contracts. People were starting to give us loads. You mentioned rapid response. What we knew at the very beginning of the year was everybody needs capacity. We can call any retailer somewhere in the country. They need us to fly a team there to offer capacity or arrange for a flight for a motor carrier to go there. And so we just started leveraging. It wasn't a unique concept, but the need for it was unique in the way everybody needed it. We got really good at creating that Rolodex and connecting those dots and ensuring some level of quality with those teams, which is historically not a very quality-driven solution. So we really leveraged it. We established a lot of relationships, sales cycles that would have taken 1.5 years, 2 years in the past were taking 3 to 6 months. Mm-hmm. And we went from a $13 million a year company in 2020. And then that next year, $42 million with a new sponsor and one heck of a mentor. And this book, I just would highly recommend. One of the cool things about it is just you don't have to read it linear. You can just skip around. Each chapter is self-contained. But
that's one of my favorite parts about it.
Yeah.
It's a self-contained chapter. And the other favorite part about that book is here it is on a bumper sticker.
Here it is on a bumper sticker. I love it. So I just, for that entire year, I was just into Keith Cunningham, and our mentorship was great. And I remember the day we closed on that first transaction and the gravity of it. I was at Universal Studios Orlando with my family. I was just sitting kind of looking out a little bit over the park as we were having our closing call, which me, you, and Manny were on. It sunk in immediately. A lot of things in my life, it takes time for me to digest. That one, it was, I knew that we had put our company in a really good position for the future. Mm-hmm. I knew that I had just put our company in a position to take introduce 18 new managing partners. I knew that we were going to be able to not just survive, but this was our flourish, and this was setting the stage to flourish and to say yes to our clients and to be able to be open hands with what they had for us in what would have been 2022. So stage was set for us to just have rapid growth. We had the cash, we had the strategic partners, and we had a management team that all knew why we were there in the game that we were playing by the end of 2021. So it was special. And
so revenues in 2022 were what?
So we went from 13 in 2020, 42, 21, 85 the following year.
Doubled. So tripled, doubled.
Yep.
And in 2023, what were they?
191.
So doubled again.
Yeah.
More than doubled.
Yeah.
191. And the cool thing about it is, I know you know this.
Yeah.
So Riverstone Logistics has been one of the 50 fastest companies in Charlotte by the Charlotte Business Journal for the past 2 years.
Yeah.
High ranking up there too. And not for nothing, a stodgy old retailer, 20 years old, Broad River Retail. But we were also listed for the last 2 years. And so to have two companies in Charlotte, in the greater Charlotte area, which is booming and growing, be listed as two of the 50 fastest growing companies. I was really proud of it.
Yeah.
That was
what
pretty,
a moment.
That was pretty remarkable. And so proud of just the rapid ascent. So you did 192 million last year through Riverstone. What will they do this year in 2024?
Oh, we'll push over 300 this year.
Wow.
And look, I mean, we've completed our first acquisition end of last year. We continue to be very inquisitive. We're playing the part of a company that is meant to go out and do this differently in terms of how we treat our people, how we structure our entire company around the client. We don't have a geographic operating concept. We have a client-specific concept. So if you're a retailer and you're doing business with us, you have a single point of contact all the way up to the executive level who's 100% dedicated to you. It's different. And we call that the field of dreams mindset, because what we ended up having to do, or what we chose to do in 2021 and on into 2022, was go find the very best talent, the people who had the best relationships with the type of clients that we wanted to be in business with, that we wanted to serve, and to bring them aboard ahead of the need. So we were bringing people in and paying them really, really nice salaries to just kind of help out with a bunch of things while we waited to see if their client would also join our company. And man, it paid off really well. We just continue even today to structure our company in a way we call it Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. We put those pillars in place. We overserve our clients. We structure the business to love our client well and to serve them well. And it's worked out really well.
And you have a transparent a cost model with your clients.
Very
too.
much.
Yeah. So talk about that for a second.
Yeah. So any client at any time can, and they usually don't have to bring it up to us. Usually during the rating of the business, we're taking our model. We've engineered this model. We've got every line item and every cost assumption in there. We want the client to sign up for that. We want the client to help us dial it in. We want the client to point to the bogey and say, "No, you got this one wrong, and this is why." And so we kind of wrestle with that during the beginning parts of a relationship or a new market opportunity or new service. And it's just being open hands. There's no secrets here. What we're doing well is we're being transparent, we're being reliable, very trustworthy, and we're enrolling them on the front end of what's a fair margin for us to make. And what are the fair cost assumptions.
So what is Riverstone Logistics today? How many states is it in? How would you describe the company? What's your elevator pitch?
Well, first off, we're a sunrise company. So our best days are way ahead of us. We're in 31 states today. We've got offices in 3 countries. We've got 650 employees, which we call extra milers, and that is absolutely a riff off of Broad River Retail's Memory Makers.
I was going to ask you what Riverstone. I should know this. Yeah. So we are Memory Makers, and you are extra milers. I love that. That's great.
Absolutely. That's great. So I mean, look, the senior leadership team, late 2021, got into a room, and we came up with a purpose statement together. I definitely steered some things, but I didn't really have to steer much. We got to using our God-given talents and opportunities to love our neighbors, serve our communities, and improve our industry. And we did it together. We did the same thing on our 7 core beliefs the following year, and one of them was go the extra mile, which really is, whatever the expectation is, and this is biblical, whatever the expectation is, walk with them 1 mile. No, you're going to walk with them 2 miles. You're going to go further. You're going to do it in humility. You're going to do it out of a place of love for that individual or that company. And so we want to go the extra mile. We want to leave lasting impressions with people.
We'll go through your 7 core beliefs.
Yeah. So we've got, obviously go the extra mile.
Are they in any order?
No, they're in no particular order. And really, they were all coming up. They weren't net new things. They were all things we were already saying. And every company has those buzz sayings or things they rally around. And we
you just synthesized with what was already popular around the water cooler.
Exactly. So go the extra mile. That was an operational saying. We always caught our operators saying, go the extra mile, go the extra mile. Find ways to say yes, don't say no. So go the extra mile. Mutual prosperity, which, I have been a big believer in a long time, enrolling people in the financial vision as well as the operational vision of a company, but allowing them to come along for the ride and understand the game, trusting them to be adults about it. But also putting the onus on us in a transparent way to come through for our people and really make sure that we're engaging in mutually prosperous relationships. Do that with our motor carrier network as well, and we do that with our clients. So everybody's got to win or it's not worth doing. So mutual prosperity is two. Then you've got canoeing the mountains. That's the one that kind of gets people scratching their head, but it comes from Ashley Domination. Chad Spencer, good friend of ours that was up in front of the room introducing a book he had read, Canoeing the Mountains. It's really about church leadership, but it references the Lewis and Clark story and just how everybody thought the Missouri River was going to take you all the way to the Pacific. Old Thomas Jefferson sent those guys to go find that water route. That water route didn't exist. They got to the top of a hill and discovered the Rocky Mountains thinking they were going to see the Pacific Ocean. But every company is confronted with those type moments where you think you know what you know. You think you know what's ahead of you. You get there and it's not there. It's not like you thought at all. And you have a couple of choices. And one of those choices is to turn back. Maybe you can go around. But what Lewis and Clark did was they leaned into community, Native Americans. They found a new route through the mountains. They ditched their idea of a water route and they reinvented themselves, kind of innovated. And then just got a lot of grit and conviction after that to get through the other side.
It's kind of like your Broad River story. You didn't turn around. You canoed the mountains in 2015. Okay, keep going.
That's right. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Mutual prosperity, canoe the mountains.
Yeah, run through the storm. So run through the storm comes from it. And I still can't remember where I heard it. It might have been from Manny Rodriguez that I got this.
Story of the Buffalo.
The story of the Buffalo. So they, I think we said this a lot at Broad River the summer after the fire. And just they're unique. They band together as a herd, and when a storm's on the horizon, unlike so many other creatures on the prairie and the Great Plains, they don't bury themselves, they don't try to go around it, and they don't run away from it. They herd, run through it. They know that that's the quickest way through the storm, run right at it. So certainly COVID and our response in 2021 was a good opportunity for us to exercise that muscle. Winning the right way. It's not worth winning if we can't win with integrity and be able to hold our heads high. I'm not sure which number I'm on, Charlie.
That was 5.
That was 5. Thank you. Yeah. So let's see. We got
Pencils Have Erasers.
Pencils Have Erasers. Thank you so much. Guy, he's on it. Pencils Have Erasers. Yeah. We want our people to know that like everything we do with outside of the purpose statement is editable and should be edited. And if you leave it sitting too long, then you've done the wrong thing by the client, by your teammates. So always edit and be willing to whip out the pencil and make things better, or be willing to erase it all. So don't fear failure. Don't fear tweaking. Don't rest on your laurels.
Yeah, don't be wary of your opportunity cost.
That's right. Absolutely.
Like, hey, we can erase it and build it from scratch. And so the 7th core belief.
Yeah, profit fuels purpose.
And what does that mean?
Profit fuels purpose. Purpose, the purpose statement that we've developed calls on us to love our neighbors. And to love our neighbors well requires that we engage in those mutually prosperous relationships. People expect that to mean they make competitive salaries and they have opportunity. So does serving a community. You want to serve the community, you can do that tangibly, but you also want to do that financially and be a blessing to the community that you're in. Without profit, none of that's possible. So at the end of the day, we have a core belief that restates and brings us back to really financial stewardship of the company and making sure that we understand that profit is a necessity for this whole thing to work.
Yeah, profit is oxygen, is something like that.
For sure.
And who are some of your big customers right now?
Yeah, we got Lowe's, the Home Depot, IKEA. Is a new one for us. Obviously, Ashley is a significant customer for us. Crate and Barrel. We've got a lot of great customers. Just decided to deal with HD Supply, so very excited about our clients.
and you're in what type of businesses, not just last mile delivery?
Yeah, so we serve on the final mile side, which final mile means a lot of different things. So we're a freight forwarder, which means we're engaging in arranging logistics services to a customer's home, but we're also arranging for warehousing solutions and things of that nature. Then there's brokerage. We have a brokerage arm, and that truck brokerage arm is meant to get truckloads of merchandise to customer DCs or docks, cross docks. It serves LTL, serves drayage. We're a much different company than we started out as. We're multimodal. We're cross-selling into both of those modes, and so it's really exciting.
And I want you to be able to talk about your team.
Yeah.
And the involvement in the community. I know Riverstone also got, I believe it was by Charlotte Business Journal, one of the best places to work in Charlotte last year. So congratulations for that. An
honor previously bestowed on Broad River Retail.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We've been gotten that in the furniture industry for the last 3 years. So you want to be a great place to work.
Yeah.
And you want to create mutual prosperity, including for your neighbors and those nearest to you, the most vulnerable children, for instance. And so I want to be able to talk about kind of your leadership team and where Riverstone's going with the community and the deal you just did with Charlotte Knights and what that means, and congregations for kids, and then just what the future looks like. So maybe we'll come back for one more episode. How's that sound?
That sounds great. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us for episode 5 of the Charlie Workmon conversation. Come back next time and we'll wrap it up with the last and final episode with Charlie Workmon as we talk a little bit more about Riverstone Logistics. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Stories from the River. To check out more episodes, visit storiesfromtheriver.com. Join us again next week, and remember to like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast.